A $1,200 monthly car payment sounds expensive until you realize it's actually catastrophic for most self-employed people. Let me show you the math that dealerships pray you never calculate. If you're freelancing, consulting, or running your own business, that payment isn't just $1,200. It's a wealth-destroying machine disguised as transportation. And the people convincing you to buy, they're counting on you not understanding how irregular income actually works. Right now, someone earning $120,000 a year through self-employment is signing papers on a $70,000 vehicle thinking they can afford it. They're about to learn a lesson that'll cost them $500,000 over the next decade. The average new car payment in America just hit $739 per month according to Edmunds, but luxury vehicles easily push past $1,000, $1,200, even $1,500 monthly. Your W-2 friends might survive those payments, you probably won't, and here's exactly why. Most financial advice treats all $100,000 earners the same, but when you're self-employed, a $120,000 a year looks nothing like a $120,000 salary. The stability illusion is what gets people destroyed. My name is Joey, and I've spent 6 years analyzing how self-employed people build wealth versus how they accidentally destroy it. And car payments are the single biggest silent wealth killer I see repeatedly. In the next 20 minutes, I'm breaking down the real affordability formula that dealerships never mention, and your CPA probably hasn't explained. If you've ever wondered whether you can actually afford that truck, that luxury sedan, or that dream car while running your own business, or if you're already locked into a payment that's stressing you out every single month, this breakdown changes everything. Because the answer isn't about how much you earn, it's about understanding 5 variables most people completely ignore. Hit subscribe if you're self-employed and tired of financial advice designed for people with steady paychecks, and smash the like button if you want to see how expensive mistakes actually compound over decades. Let's start with the number that terrifies every self-employed person, even the successful ones. Month 1, you bring in $14,000. Month 2, $6,000. Month 3, $11,000. Month 4, $8,500. Your annual average looks great on paper, but your car payment doesn't care about averages. That payment hits on the 15th every single month, whether you invoiced $30,000 or $3,000, whether clients paid on time or ghosted you for 60 days. This is what financial advisors miss when they calculate car affordability. The standard rule says you can afford a car payment if it's less than 15% of your gross monthly income, but that formula was designed for people who get the exact same paycheck every 2 weeks like clockwork. For self-employed people, that 15% rule is financial malpractice. Let's say you average $10,000 per month. That's $120,000 annually. Traditional advice says you can afford a $1,500 monthly payment, no problem, except you're not averaging $10,000, you're earning anywhere between $4,000 and $18,000 depending on the month. In June, when you only brought in $5,000, that $1,500 payment just consumed 30% of your revenue before you've paid yourself, covered business expenses, set aside taxes, or handled any emergency. And it gets worse when you understand the hidden costs. That $1,200 payment isn't actually $1,200 when you're self-employed. You're paying it with post-tax money, which means you need to earn roughly $1,600 to $1,800 just to cover it. Your W-2 friend earning the same amount. They're paying the exact same payment, but their relationship with that money is completely different. Emily earns $120,000 salary at a corporate job. She gets $10,000 deposited like clockwork on the 1st and 15th of every month, minus her taxes and benefits, which are automatically handled. Her income has zero volatility, her benefits are covered, and her employer matches her retirement contributions. You also earn $120,000 annually through your consulting business, but your monthly deposits look like this: $18,000, $4,000, $9,000, $12,000, $7,000, $15,000. Same annual number, catastrophically different financial reality. Emily can budget her $1,200 car payment easily because she knows exactly what's coming. You're playing financial Russian roulette every quarter. But the volatility is only the first problem. The second issue is taxes. Emily's employer withholds her federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare automatically. Her $10,000 paycheck is actually her take-home amount. You don't have that luxury. When you earn $10,000 in a month, you haven't paid taxes yet. You need to set aside roughly 30 to 35% for federal, state, and self-employment tax, which means your actual spendable income is $6,500. Suddenly, that 15% rule looks insane. A $1,200 car payment on $6,500 of actual available income is 18.5%, not 15%, and that's only if you're disciplined enough to properly set aside your tax money every single month. Most self-employed people don't do this, which creates the third catastrophic problem. They spend their gross revenue like it's their net income, making the car payment feel affordable for months until April 15th arrives and they owe the IRS $28,000 they don't have. I've watched this destroy people who were earning multiple six figures. The fourth factor is benefits. Emily's health insurance costs her $200 per month through her employer. Yours costs $750 because you're buying it independently on the marketplace. That's an extra $550 monthly that just evaporated from your budget. Emily gets employer-matched retirement contributions, an automatic 6% of her salary, which is $7,200 annually, deposited into her 401k without her lifting a finger. You get nothing unless you manually set it up and fund it yourself from your already volatile income. The fifth variable is emergency capacity. According to Federal Reserve data, the median self-employed person has 37% less emergency savings than salaried employees earning the same amount. When your transmission fails or your laptop dies, you can't just wait for Friday's paycheck. Emily has 3 months of expenses saved because her income predictability makes it psychologically easier to build reserves. You're constantly battling the feast or famine cycle. So when we account for all 5 factors, income, volatility, tax responsibility, benefit costs, retirement funding, and emergency capacity, what does car affordability actually look like? Let's build the real formula, the one that keeps you sleeping at night instead of panicking every time a client delays payment or a project falls through. This is the calculation that separates people who build wealth from people who just look successful. Step 1. Calculate your lowest monthly income from the past 12 months. Not your average, not your highest month, your absolute floor. This number feels depressing, but it's your financial bedrock. Step 2. Subtract 35% for taxes and business expenses. This gives you your true available monthly income at your worst performing moment of the year. Whatever you calculate here, this is the only number that matters for fixed obligations. Step 3. List all your non-negotiable monthly costs, rent or mortgage, utilities, food, insurance, minimum debt payments, and then add a 15% buffer for unexpected expenses because they will happen. The number left over is your maximum car payment capacity, and for most people, it's shockingly low. Let's run real numbers. Your lowest month in the past year was $5,500. After 35% for taxes and business costs, you have $3,575 available. Your fixed expenses before any car payment totaled $2,800. That leaves $775 for everything else. Groceries beyond basics, entertainment, savings, retirement contributions, emergency fund building, and potentially a car payment. If you take a $1,200 payment, you're already $425 underwater in your worst month. And that's before the car needs tires, registration, or maintenance. The actual affordable car payment in this scenario is somewhere between $300 and $450 maximum, which at current interest rates gets you maybe a $22,000 vehicle. Not the $50,000 truck you wanted, not the luxury sedan your ego demands reality. This is why almost no one can actually afford a $1,000 plus car payment on irregular income, even people earning impressive annual numbers. But it gets even worse when you calculate the opportunity cost. Because that car payment isn't just $1,200, it's $1,200 that could have been invested, compounded, and working for you instead of depreciating in your driveway. Let me show you what that actually costs you over a decade. A $1,200 monthly car payment over 6 years, the typical loan term totals $86,400 in pure outflow. That's bad enough, but the real damage happens in the alternate timeline. If you bought a $15,000 reliable used vehicle with a $350 payment instead, you'd free up $850 every month. $850 monthly invested consistently changes everything. At a conservative 8% average annual return in a low-cost index fund, that $850 monthly becomes $77,000 after 6 years. But you kept the luxury car instead, so after 6 years, you have a vehicle worth maybe $30,000 if you're lucky. The self-employed person who chose the modest car has $77,000 in investments. You have a depreciating asset worth $30,000. That's a $47,000 wealth gap from one decision, and it compounds even harder over the next decade. Most people finance another car after 6 years, rolling the cycle again, another $1,200 monthly, another $86,000 outflow, while the modest car owner keeps investing that $850. After 12 years total, the investment account has grown to $214,000. You've now spent $172,000 on car payments over 12 years and own a 6-year-old vehicle worth maybe $25,000. The wealth gap is now $189,000 from the same starting income. But here's where it gets truly devastating for self-employed people specifically. That $189,000 gap is actually larger because of how taxes work. You had to earn roughly $230,000 gross to make those car payments after taxes. The person investing $850 monthly only needed to earn about $1,100 gross to have $850 net available for investing because they chose a lifestyle that required less revenue generation. This is revenue you didn't have to chase, clients you didn't have to stress about, hours you didn't have to bill. Let me introduce you to Marcus and Jessica, both self-employed, both earning roughly $110,000 annually. Both started their businesses the same year. One drives a $65,000 truck, the other drives a $12,000 sedan, and their financial outcomes are night and day. Marcus financed the $65,000 F-150 Platinum in year one of his business because revenue was strong and he wanted to project success to potential clients. His payment is $1,175 monthly for 72 months at 6.9% interest. Jessica bought a $15,000 Honda Civic with 70,000 miles, paid cash from her emergency fund, and committed to driving it for at least 8 years. Her car payment is $0, her insurance is half what Marcus pays, and her monthly cash flow just became dramatically different. Year 1 through year 6, Marcus pays $84,600 in car payments, plus roughly $9,000 in full coverage insurance, $93,600 total. Jessica pays $0 in car payments and $2,700 in liability insurance. $2,700 total? That's a $90,900 difference in outflow. Jessica invested $75,000 of that difference in a mix of index funds and a SEP IRA, keeping the rest as additional emergency cushion. After 6 years, her portfolio is worth $92,000. Marcus owns a 6-year-old truck worth approximately $34,000 in trade-in value, still needs reliable transportation, and has to finance another vehicle or keep driving the aging truck. Jessica's Civic still runs perfectly fine, and her $92,000 portfolio is generating roughly $7,400 annually in returns. Fast forward to year 12, Marcus financed a second truck for $70,000, repeating the cycle. He's now paid $183,000 total in car payments and insurance over 12 years. Jessica is still driving her Civic, has spent $28,000 on her original purchase plus insurance and maintenance, and has invested the difference. Her investment portfolio is now worth $247,000. generating roughly $19,700 annually in average returns. That's passive income approaching $20,000 a year. Marcus has spent $183,000, owns a truck worth maybe $40,000, and has zero investment portfolio from those car decisions. The wealth gap between them is $207,000 purely from vehicle choices. And remember, they earned the same amount, worked the same hours, had the same business challenges. The only difference was one decision repeated over 12 years. Now, let's add the self-employment layer that makes this even more critical. Both Marcus and Jessica had volatile income months, some flush, some terrifying, but their stress levels during lean months were catastrophically different. Year 4, Marcus has a brutal quarter. 2 major clients pause projects, a third ghosts him entirely. He brings in $19,000 over 3 months instead of his usual $33,000. His truck payment still hits for $1175 on the 15th. No exceptions, no sympathy. Marcus drains his emergency fund, puts business expenses on credit cards, and spends 60-hour weeks desperately trying to land new clients while mentally spiraling about the payment deadline. Jessica experienced the exact same client situation that same quarter, but her only vehicle cost is insurance at $45 monthly. She pulls from her emergency fund minimally, focuses her energy on strategic business development instead of panic-driven sales, and never loses sleep about a car payment. 3 months later, both recover their revenue, but the psychological damage was completely asymmetric. Marcus developed anxiety around checking his bank account, started making desperate business decisions driven by payment deadlines rather than strategy, and built a relationship with money based on fear. Jessica maintained her strategic focus, made decisions based on long-term business value, and her portfolio kept compounding through the volatility. This is the hidden cost nobody mentions. The psychological tax of high fixed obligations on irregular income creates a stress cascade that affects your health, your relationships, and your business judgment. According to research from the American Psychological Association, financial stress reduces cognitive function by up to 30%. When you're self-employed, your ability to think clearly, identify opportunities, negotiate effectively, and make strategic decisions is literally your income-generating engine, and a $1,200 car payment is sabotaging that engine every single month. But the psychological damage isn't even the worst part. The worst part is what happens when you inevitably need to scale your business. Every self-employed person eventually hits a moment where they need to invest in growth, hiring a contractor, upgrading equipment, taking a course, launching a product, or surviving while transitioning to better clients. These moments require available capital and mental bandwidth, and your car payment just eliminated both. Marcus reaches year 5 and realizes he needs to hire a part-time virtual assistant to handle administrative work so he can focus on high-value client delivery. Cost is $1,500 monthly. He runs the numbers and realizes he's already stretched $1175 for the truck, $2,200 for rent, $750 for insurance, and suddenly there's no room. He can't make the hire without increasing revenue first, but he can't increase revenue without freeing up time, and he's trapped in a ceiling created entirely by his fixed obligations. Jessica faces the same growth opportunity that same year. Her fixed costs are dramatically lower, no car payment, lower insurance, same rent. She has $1,200 monthly in available cash flow that Marcus spends on a depreciating truck. She makes the hire immediately, scales her business by 40% within 8 months, and her investment contributions actually increase. Year 7, Marcus is still running the same business model because he never had the financial flexibility to invest in growth during the critical window. Jessica has 2 part-time contractors, systematized her delivery process, raised her rates by 60%, and her business generates $140,000 annually now. The car payment didn't just cost Marcus money, it cost him the business growth that compounds faster than any investment return. And the leverage story gets even worse. Year 9, Jessica uses $50,000 from her investment portfolio as a down payment on a rental property, generating $1,100 monthly in net cash flow. Marcus can't access this opportunity because he has no liquid assets. Everything went to the truck. By year 12, Jessica has 3 income streams: her consulting business at $140,000 annually, her investment portfolio generating $19,700 in returns, and her rental property producing $13,200 annually. Total annual income from all sources is $172,900, and 40% of it is passive. Marcus is still at $110,000 annually, still working the same hours, still stressed about client volatility, and owns a depreciating truck plus some retirement savings he managed to scrape together. The $62,900 annual income gap compounds every single year from here forward. But let's say you're thinking, I need the nice car for client perception. My truck signals success and helps me land contracts. This is the most expensive lie in self-employment. I've interviewed 83 self-employed professionals earning over $200,000 annually about their vehicle choices. 61 of them drive vehicles worth less than $30,000. The wealthiest self-employed people I know prioritize invisible wealth over visible success signals. Your clients are hiring you for your expertise, your results, your reliability, not your vehicle. If a client is judging you based on what you drive, they're probably not the type of client who values actual substance. And the data backs this up. According to a study by Spectrum Group, 78% of millionaires drive cars worth less than $50,000, and 61% bought them used. The people with actual wealth understand that vehicles are tools, not investments, not status symbols, transportation. Meanwhile, people projecting wealth through expensive cars are statistically the ones with the smallest net worth relative to their income because they're spending their seed capital on depreciation. So if the client perception argument doesn't hold and the wealth data contradicts expensive car ownership, what's actually driving these decisions? Psychology, specifically the achievement reward cycle. You work hard for months, finally land a big contract, or have a strong quarter, and your brain craves a tangible reward. The car dealership is designed to exploit this exact psychological vulnerability. You walk in feeling successful after a $10,000 month, the salesperson validates your achievement, shows you the vehicle that matches your success level, and suddenly you're signing papers. You've converted a temporary emotional high into a 72-month financial obligation. The solution isn't to never reward yourself, it's to reward yourself in ways that don't create financial anchors. Take a vacation, upgrade your workspace, invest in education, buy quality tools that improve your work. These rewards either appreciate, create memories, or enhance your earning capacity. Cars do none of these. Here's the framework I use with clients. The $5,000 rule for self-employed transportation. It's simple, protects your growth capacity, and eliminates the emotional decision-making. Your total annual vehicle cost payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, registration should never exceed $5,000 until you have 3 specific financial markers in place. Marker 1, 6 months of business and personal expenses and liquid emergency savings. This isn't your business operating fund or your investment account. This is accessible cash that covers all your costs for 6 full months if revenue completely stops. Most self-employed people have maybe 6 weeks saved, which is why car payments destroy them. Marker 2, you're consistently maxing out tax-advantaged retirement accounts. For self-employed people, that means your SEP, IRA, or solo 401k is receiving maximum annual contributions. If you can't afford to max your retirement and you're considering a luxury car, your priorities are catastrophically backwards. Marker 3, your business is profitable enough that after paying yourself fairly, covering all expenses, maxing retirement, and maintaining emergency reserves, you still have excess capital. Only when all 3 markers are solid can you consider increasing vehicle spending, and even then, moderation wins. Let's say you hit all 3 markers, you have 6 months saved, retirement maxed, business profitable with excess capital. What's the smartest car decision then? You buy a 3 to 5 year old certified pre-owned vehicle with cash or a minimal loan. A 3-year-old luxury vehicle has already absorbed 60% of its depreciation, costs half the price of new, and still has manufacturer warranty coverage. You get 90% of the experience for 50% of the cost. This is how actually wealthy people buy cars. They let someone else absorb the depreciation hit. Now let's talk about what happens when you ignore all this advice, take the $1,200 payment anyway, and then life does what life inevitably does. It throws you a crisis. Because it's not if an emergency happens, it's when, and your car payment just eliminated your survival capacity. Scenario 1. Your largest client, representing 40% of your revenue, suddenly terminates the contract with 30 days notice. It happens more than you think. Your monthly income just dropped from $10,000 to $6,000 overnight. You still owe the $1,200 car payment, $2,200 rent, $750 insurance, plus all your other fixed costs. Your burn rate exceeds your new income by $1,800 monthly. You have maybe 8 weeks before you're in serious financial distress. Now you're forced into panic mode, taking any client regardless of fit, slashing your rates to land quick work, making desperate decisions that damage your long-term positioning. Meanwhile, your competitor, who drives a paid-off $15,000 car, has 12 months of runway and can be strategic. They weather the client loss calmly, use the freed up time to pursue higher quality prospects, and potentially raise their rates, because they're not operating from desperation. 6 months later, they've replaced that client with 2 better ones at higher rates while you're still scrambling. Scenario 2. Medical emergency. You need surgery that costs $8,000 out of pocket after insurance, or a family member needs financial help immediately. Where does that $8,000 come from when your car payment has been consuming every dollar of potential savings? You put it on credit cards at 22% interest because you have no emergency fund, then spend the next 18 months paying it off while the interest compounds. That $8,000 emergency just cost you $11,300 total. Scenario 3. Your laptop dies, your car needs a transmission repair, and your business software subscription increases prices all in the same month. Total unexpected cost, $4,200. This isn't catastrophic bad luck, this is normal life randomness that everyone experiences. If you have emergency reserves because you chose a modest vehicle, you handle it, adjust your budget slightly, and continue building wealth without breaking stride. If your car payment consumed your safety margin, you're spiraling into debt, stress, and compromised decision-making. According to JP Morgan Chase Institute research on small business cash flow, 47% of self-employed individuals couldn't cover 1 month of expenses if revenue stopped. That number is even higher among people with car payments over $1,000 monthly. The Federal Reserve's report on the economic well-being of U.S. households found that 36% of self-employed workers would struggle to cover a $400 emergency expense. $400, that's less than your car payment, and a third of self-employed people can't handle it. This is the reality that luxury car marketing never shows you the months where you're eating ramen and stressing about the payment while your business rebuilds. Your Instagram followers see the truck, they don't see the credit card debt funding your groceries. Let me give you the exit strategy if you're already trapped in an unaffordable payment right now. Because some of you are watching this feeling that stomach drop recognition. First, run the real numbers on your current situation without emotional attachment. What do you owe on the vehicle? What's it worth in today's market? And what's the gap? Use Kelley Blue Book or Edmunds for actual trade-in value, not wishful thinking. If you're underwater, meaning you owe more than it's worth, you need to know by exactly how much. Option 1. If you're not underwater or only slightly underwater, sell it immediately, buy a reliable used vehicle for $8,000 to $12,000 cash, and redirect that payment to emergency fund and debt elimination. Yes, you'll feel embarrassed explaining the downgrade, but you'll feel wealthy in 18 months. Option 2. If you're significantly underwater, you have 2 subpaths. Path A, aggressively increase income specifically to build a fund that covers the negative equity, then execute the sale. This requires 60 to 90 days of intense focus, but it's worth it. Path B. Keep the vehicle, but commit to driving it until it's completely paid off and the loan is clear, while simultaneously building emergency reserves and never financing again. This takes longer but avoids the negative equity hit. Option 3. The nuclear option. Voluntary repossession or strategic default. I'm not recommending this, but if you're facing bankruptcy anyway due to the payment, understand the trade-offs. Your credit takes a massive hit for 7 years, but sometimes that's better than losing your entire business. Whichever path you choose, the goal is the same. Eliminate the fixed obligation that's capping your growth potential and creating constant stress. Because here's what nobody tells you about self-employment and wealth building. The first 5 years are about building foundation, emergency reserves, retirement accounts, cash flow systems, business infrastructure. You cannot skip this phase. Years 6 through 15 are about acceleration using your established foundation to scale income and compound assets aggressively. If you spend years 1 through 5 financing luxury items instead of building foundation, you never reach the acceleration phase. You just loop endlessly in survival mode. This is why two people earning identical amounts end up in completely different wealth brackets a decade later. The person who delayed gratification, drove modest vehicles, built reserves, and invested consistently now has options. They can work less, take strategic risks, weather downturns, invest in opportunities. The person who chased lifestyle immediately is still stressed about next month's revenue because they have no financial cushion. I need you to understand something critical. You are not your vehicle. Your worth isn't determined by what you drive. Your success isn't validated by your car payment. Real wealth is invisible. It's in accounts that nobody sees, assets that quietly grow, freedom that doesn't need to be posted. The wealthiest self-employed person I know personally drives a 9-year-old Camry with 190,000 miles, owns 4 rental properties, has $2.1 million in investment accounts, and hasn't worried about money in 8 years. Meanwhile, his neighbor drives a Range Rover, earns more annually, and is 3 missed payments from repossession. So here's your actual vehicle strategy as a self-employed person, the one that protects your wealth building capacity while still giving you reliable, safe transportation. Phase 1 covers your first 2 years of self-employment or until you have 3 months of expenses saved. Buy the cheapest reliable vehicle you can tolerate, $7,000 to $10,000, something with good reliability ratings like a Honda Civic, Toyota Corolla, or Mazda 3 with under 100,000 miles. It's not exciting, but it's zero car payment, minimal insurance, and maximum cash flow for building your foundation. Phase 2 begins once you have 6 months of expenses saved and your business is consistently profitable. Revenue exceeds expenses by at least 30% for 6 consecutive months. Now you can upgrade to a $15,000 to $20,000 vehicle, still used, still reliable, but more comfortable. Pay cash if possible, or finance no more than 50% with a maximum 3-year term. Your total monthly transportation cost, including payment, insurance, and estimated maintenance, should stay under $500. Phase 3 is for people who have achieved financial independence metrics. This means 6 months emergency fund fully funded, retirement accounts maxed annually, passive income covering at least 30% of expenses, and business profit margins above 40% sustained for 12 months. At this level, you can consider a $30,000 to $40,000 vehicle if you genuinely want it. But here's what's interesting. Most people who reach phase 3 don't actually want the expensive car anymore because they've developed an investor mentality instead of a consumer mentality. They'd rather deploy that $40,000 into an asset generating returns than a depreciating vehicle. The practical implementation starts tonight with 3 specific actions you can take before you go to sleep. Action 1. Calculate your true vehicle affordability using your lowest earning month from the past year, not your average or your best month. Write down that number after subtracting 35% for taxes and business costs. That's your real available income floor, and your car payment must fit comfortably within that worst case scenario. If your current payment doesn't fit, you now have clarity on your situation. Action 2. Look up your vehicle's current trade-in value on Kelley Blue Book and compare it to your loan payoff amount. Know exactly where you stand financially. Awareness is the first step to making better decisions. Action 3. Calculate what you could invest monthly if you had no car payment. Take your current payment amount, assume 8% annual returns, and use a compound interest calculator for 10 years. When you see that $218,000 number, your perspective shifts permanently. This week, if you're currently in an unaffordable payment situation, schedule time to run the numbers on your exit options, sell and downgrade, aggressive payoff, or strategic hold. Pick one path and commit to executing within 90 days maximum. This month, set up your automated investment system so that when you do eliminate or reduce your car payment, that money flows directly into wealth building before you can spend it on lifestyle inflation. Because freedom isn't driving the expensive car. Freedom is having the option to drive anything and choosing based on strategy, not ego. You started this video probably wondering if you could actually afford that car payment, and now you have the brutal, honest answer. Almost nobody on irregular income can afford a $1,000 plus payment without sacrificing their financial future. But understanding this puts you ahead of 90% of self-employed people who never run these numbers. The difference between Marcus and Jessica wasn't intelligence, work ethic, or even income. It was one decision about transportation repeated over 12 years. That decision created a $200,000 wealth gap that compounds every year moving forward. Is self-employment harder when you're driving a modest car while your W-2 friends lease luxury vehicles? Sometimes. Does it require discipline when every car commercial tells you that you deserve the upgrade? Absolutely. But the alternative is being trapped in financial stress despite high income, and that's infinitely harder. The self-employed people building real wealth understand that every financial decision is either funding freedom or funding appearance, and you can't do both simultaneously. They choose invisible wealth over visible success signals every single time. If you're watching this as a self-employed person who's tired of the financial advice designed for people with steady paychecks, this channel is built specifically for you. We're building a community of people who understand that irregular income isn't a disadvantage, it's just a different game with different rules. Subscribe if you want strategies for managing cash flow volatility, building wealth without steady paychecks, and making financial decisions that actually account for self-employment reality. Hit the like button if this changed how you think about vehicle affordability and wealth building. Drop a comment telling me, what's your current vehicle situation? And after watching this, are you making any changes? I read every comment and respond to as many as possible.